Just turn it on, sorry. Commencing on at 4 o'clock on the 15th of May. Starting off, apologies. We have an apology from Chairperson Kat Brown-Merritt, which I'm assuming has been noted. And everybody else is present. Can I have a mover and second of that? Two ladies to my left. Community Board Member Joe Butcher and Councillor Secretary Christensen. As far as I'm aware, we've got no late items. Is that correct? Does that need to be moved and seconded or? Okay. Declaration of the conflict of interest. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest for this meeting?
I would like to declare a conflict of interest for item 13, because I'm the employee of the Ōtorohanga Support House.
Thank you very much. So that is noted. Do we have to we just note that, do we? We can see. Can I have a move in a second? I'll move that. Can we have a second of that? Thanks, Katrina. You're on there. Okay. And then we move to confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. I'm assuming they have been read. Anything out of that we need to clarify or sort out? All good? Can I have a mover and a seconder for the acceptance of the previous minutes? Councillor Steve Hughes and Community Board Member Joe Butcher. Thanks, Ross. Public forum. Do we? Like Bridget's here, but she's for the report. So it's now the public forum. That's great. That being the case, shall we move on to item 13, which is the Ōtorohanga Support House. Ōtorohanga Support House. And I'll hand over to Nadia. Are you? Oh, so are you staying in? Will you?
Yeah, I'd like to leave.
Yeah.
This.
Okay. You orders that we will be leaving for this item. And over to item 13. Sorry, I'll get to it in my notes just now. Nadia Carr, Group Manager, Strategy and Community. Thanks, Nadia.
Thank you, your chair and community board members. So this is a returning item from our previous meeting in which you asked us to go back and find some more financial information for which to make your decision. I won't go through the whole report. There's only a few things that have changed since its last one. I will just note that I was remiss in adding into the report that we had a discussion with the support house around seeking grants from other funders for their rent, and the support house had informed us that they had capped the availability of operational funds. So sorry for omitting that. I have with me Graham Bunn, Group Manager for Business Enablement, who can talk through some of the financial information. But the only other addition that we made following our conversation in the last hui was just around what an increase in this funding would mean in relation to a rates impact. So you'll see that at 5.18, giving you a context of what that might look like against a property value of 800,000. It would be an additional $2.60 per annum. Other than that, I'll hand over to Mr. Bunn if he has anything to add to the financial information. And then we'll be happy to take further questions.
Yeah, so thanks, thanks Nadia. So since the last meeting, we've received the audited accounts from the support house for the year ending 30th of June 22. Nadia and I also met with the support house staff just to get some clarification, but for me it was really just to get an understanding of, I guess, how the business is run, their sources of revenue and their sources of their sources of expenditure. So basically the support house is almost entirely reliant on external funding, and that can mean that from a cash position that at various times of the year as that funding comes in, they look like they're in quite a attractive position, but of course that funding has to carry on for a certain period of time. So their outgoings are almost entirely wages. Some of the funding that comes in, like the funding that came in from the lotteries, is for a period of 2 years. So you know, it's going to look like at different times that they're in a different sort of financial state. So I guess in terms of their liabilities as at balance date last year, they were I guess in a state where they had enough funds to cover their current liabilities. So I mean, for an organisation like that, they should probably be looking at covering probably 3 months of wages, which their current liabilities were sufficient to cover that. But I guess in my opinion, from the loss that they made last year, they're in a good financial state, but it's where you would expect for an organisation of that type.
Thank you. Just my importance, just maybe from my own in 2.4 says that the rent has been paid since 2000, which I know because I was there at the time. And then 2.5 it says that the buildings has been paid since 2020, 2021. Was that a new contract, or was that just a miscompare? Should have been, should that 2020 be 2000? Just as a matter of interest. Actually doesn't impact our decision one little bit. I just
yes, I think that's a typo.
as I said,
Yeah.
it doesn't impact our decision in the slightest. So just
Yeah, so sorry, my apologies for that mistake. Nicely picked up. Yes, well, council has provided a grant to the support house from the beginning.
From the get-go,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I understood.
In fact, as far back as our reports go.
Thank you. So discussions, questions, team?
For you, Chair. Am I able to speak to Greta and ask a question? Oh, thanks. No,
Just right,
sorry, no. Is that why she's here? No? To give information or listen? I'm confused.
Okay, Greta's here to obviously witness the report delivery, but I don't think you can directly start asking questions from the public gallery. So those questions will have to go through Nadia or Graham as who take. Yeah.
Given the understanding of council that she can't get answering questions. So,
So, but I'm sure you could ask Nadia the question. I know the answer.
I think through you, Chair, if I can just explain, while we tend to adopt a more informal approach to meetings here, you can imagine how nasty it could get if people who turned up in the public forum start having questions directed at them from the meeting. So it's really a bit of a protection mechanism. It might be that you direct the question through Nadia and Graham, and then if they need to go and kind of ask the Greta, then they can. But it's just, I'm not saying you were going to do that, Joe, but it's just to give some protection there to people that turn up, that they're not going to be under kind of fire from people who are in the decision-making role. So I guess with the permission of the chair, you could ask the question and he could determine whether he thought that it was okay for Greta to answer it. I know we're a little bit more relaxed here, so that's fine as well.
Thanks through the chair. Sorry, thanks Tanya for letting me know about that. Mine came from why I said that, as I said, was because I was given the information that Greta was here, so I'm still new. Don't forget, I'm only 6 months in, and it's really different to a lot of different, obviously, committees. So I was informed that I could do this from someone who's been here longer. So that's where I was coming from.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
no,
thank
no
you.
problem. And yeah, Peter can, if you want to ask the question, then Peter can determine whether he thinks it's okay for you to ask it of Greta.
I mean, I agree. We do things slightly less formally here. However, there are problems.
Yeah.
I'm very happy. Just to keep some kind of policy, so there's not a precedent set now, because back to Charles Ben, they're happy.
Can I just add, sorry, I've been here a little while, obviously, and I was confused too, because Greta we could ask her questions last time. So that's where the assumption came from.
Okay, through you, Chair, can I ask Graham,
Yes.
please, then, and Nadia, maybe, because they've been talking
Yes,
to
yes,
Greta.
yes.
Just wondering about the 3 and also 5-year lease that had been thrown around, obviously within all the information, and just wondering about if it was to end up being a 3-year lease and they want to spend some money doing up 88 Moneo Portal Street and go for funding. And they're not sure what's happening at the end of that 3-year lease. It's a lot of money to go for funding, and whether they get it or not, because it's only 3 years, and waste maybe. Do you have any information on that or thoughts?
Sorry, can I just get clarity on what the question is?
I'm wanting to know, is it OSH, sorry, I may not have been very clear. Is the Ōtorohanga Support House really comfortable with only 3 years? Is that what they really want? Because I'm getting a bit confused, because that's a lot of money to throw and do up a building within 3 years and apply for funding.
Yes. So without going to Greta at this stage, when we, Trish and I first proposed the 3 years to the support house, we were informed that that would be substantial. It would be enough time to seek further funding to renovate inside, should all the other processes that are required to remove walls or put holes in walls be met. I would hesitate to say that anybody would like a long-term lease. So I don't think that is necessarily the question if they would like longer. I think the question is whether that will suffice in terms of getting it. So that's one question. The other one, though, I guess, is your commitment through the Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan to use that bit of land for which it was purposely purchased, which is as a strategic asset to consider in a community facility or multi-purpose community facility. So what we've outlined in the report is that a 5-year lease would then need would need to look at the priority list that we've done again. So we've made that a priority 2 action. If you give them a 5-year lease, that pretty much bumps that out of that priority 2.
Then can I ask a question? Hoping not to upset. Whatever it is. There's reference in there to that, the 3+2 with the right of renewal, and at the last meeting, we realized that using the right of renewal tool, for want of a better word, means that we have no say, come the end of 3 years, we have no say. So that was kind of shut down. So is it possible that instead of using the right of renewal, for some clever people around here, can we not say 3 years, but in the agreement have an addendum or a part of the agreement that says, if the strategic plan hasn't worked out, and if we don't know what we're doing with it, we can extend it for another 2 years, if that's the case, rather than using right of renewal. Is that an option or not? Or am I just in trouble here?
For a property question like that. Can I suggest that, that once this feasibility study is done, we will know one way or another what we're going to do with that bit of property. So let's say, scenario one is that it's not the right place for a multi-purpose community facility, for which those extra properties were bought, were purchased. So then the option for council would be, well, what do we do with that? Do we maintain it? In which case we can go into longer term leases with our tenants. Do we sell it because it's no longer we're no longer holding it for the purpose of which we originally intended? Or do we do something else with it? So that's the purpose. That was our recommendation of 3 years, was that it was long enough, we believe through our conversation, for the support house to achieve what they wanted to achieve, but also give council and the board, obviously as part of that, a line in the sand close enough to actually be able to do something, whether that's then design that community facility. So let's say scenario two is, that's the perfect place for that community facility. Well, then the plans have to start happening and the fundraising to start, and we'll have more of an idea then on how long that's going to take. So once again, we can enter into
an agreement.
Another agreement. I think, forgive me for giving you my opinion here, I think if you push it out to 5 years, you're really hamstringing yourself in terms of what you're going to do with that strategic asset.
I personally agree with that. I'm just trying to find a way around the uncertainty in that. Is there another way to do the 2 years, or do we, I take on board what you're saying? Thank you. Sorry.
Just, I'm no property or lease expert, but I imagine that if your suggestion was taken through a judicial process, it would be the same as a right of renewal, just put in different words to try and, I'm only familiar with employment law and how that kind of stacks up when you do that sort of thing.
That was a question. You don't want to dig a hole that you can't get out of. I agree, yes.
The second thing is, we've just had leadership team meeting and Ross McNeil gave an update on the pieces of work that he is kind of getting underway immediately for the implementation of the OTCP. And one of them is the scope for the feasibility work on the multi-purpose centre. So we understand that this decision is, that piece of work is kind of integral to decisions around this. And so he's moving as quickly as possible on that.
That's the answer I was looking for. Thank you. Just Steve, have you got any questions? Are you looking like you're getting big mug of coffee tomorrow. Any other, Fiona, you got anything else to say? Any other questions for us?
No questions. I'm sort of on the same page of the feasibility study. We committed to this through the TCP. Like 3 years lease, we're going to know the outcome that the community wants for that piece of land, not council, the community. And then whether they want something there that is different, and if they don't, then we have the option, and the support house has the option. Hopefully we can, but the community asks for consultation about some sort of community thing. I mean, I would love to give the support house 3 years, but we've committed, 5 years, but we've committed through the
Yep.
TCP.
No, well,
And what was the point of all that consultation if we're just gonna,
Joe, anything you want to add? So we have four. Two choices of options.
We've tried to summarize that in a recommendation as number 3, if that helps, but you're right, there are the options spelt out further in the back.
Sorry, Charles.
So the staff recommendations are number 3 on page, or sorry, forget,
Yeah, so we can. just
page
do-
2 of the report,
Yes,
but I don't know
yes.
what page that is in the agenda, sorry. Of course, the board can always change those recommendations.
So staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga Community Board have considered the request of the Ōtorohanga Support House. Recommend to Ōtorohanga District Council that council agrees to a 3-year lease with the Ōtorohanga Support House with exclusive use of 88 and 120 Monument Porto Street from the 1st of July 23 to the 30th of June 26. Council agrees to fund the additional cost, $17,000 per year associated with the lease of 88 Monument Porto Street for a period of 3 years, making their total grant from the council $36,000. C, council notes that this extra funding has been included in the 2023-2024 annual plan. Can I have a mover for that? So is it a question or are you moving it? You're moving it, thanks. Yes. I thought you were about to say something before I said, no, thanks, Steve. And a seconder, Gina seconded. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, no. Thank you.
Thank you, board. Just so you know what's happening in the next step. So council is meeting tomorrow and that recommendation will go to them.
Thanks. Thank you for those reports. Is there any big questions that on? And thank you, Greta, for attending. Welcome to Community Board, Tori Muller, back into the arena. I mean, moving to item 14. And so I'll hand over to Andrew Lowe, Group Manager, Regulatory and Growth. This is the review of the local Easter Sunday shop trading policy. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. I'll take my report as read. In brief summary, this district has had a local Easter Sunday shop trading policy for the last almost 6 years, which allows all shops to open in the district on Easter Sunday. The staff recommendation is that council continue the policy without change, which is the status quo. During the time that the policy has been in place, we've received no comments either for or against policy. So there's not really a lot of options for council in terms of what you can do from here. You can move to revoke the policy, which would mean that the number of our shops couldn't trade on the Easter Sunday. Having said that, a lot of shops would qualify for the exemption, would be able to trade like some takeaways, service stations, garden centres. But yeah, there would be some retailers that if they wish to open, they wouldn't be allowed. So yeah, really just happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Andrew, any questions?
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, so when the policy was brought in 2017, I think,
Yeah.
so you've said there's been no objections or anything since. There was none before the policy was brought in either, so it was pretty smooth sailing as far as when it was implemented.
Yeah, so Yeah, thank you. When the policy was introduced, we went through the public consultation process that this review has to go through regardless of what is decided in terms of continuing it or making changes. And 4 submissions were received and they all supported the policy and they supported having it district-wide so that it was in place over both shops in Ōtorohanga and shops out of Kapiti.
Thanks. Any other questions? So the recommendation is recommended that Ōtorohanga Community Board maintain the status quo and recommend that Ōtorohanga District Council conduct a review of the local Easter Sunday shop trading policy with a view to continuing the existing policy without change. Can I have a mover? Councillor Christensen, seconder. Member Joe Butcher. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed. Abstentions. Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This matter is on the council agenda for tomorrow morning.
Thank you. There are no information reports. There are no public excluded reports. Board projects. Connectivity trail. Joe, do you want, have you got anything to add to that?
Through you, Chair, I don't know if everyone's read all of it. It's only 2 pages because one is a blank page in the middle. But I suppose just to reiterate that since the community board meeting on the 10th of March, the working party has completed the above drafted discussion and agreed actions. We're happy with our new focus for the originally planned fitness equipment on the Riverbank Walkway project. Robbie, along with Jared, have met with the Kapiti Fitness Trail Group and included in the discussions with the consultant about the design of the trail. And working party is engaging and will continue to engage with relevant council to ensure consent, compliance, safety and approval. So basically at the end there, just reiterating guys that we have looked at doing it in 3 stages. Stage 1 being public stock bank island reserve Hupatia, which we're hoping will be finished and implemented by the end of the year. Stage 2, Windsor Park, Oto College, Oto Domain, again, not sure if that will be the next year or next 2 years. And then stage 3, add more extra equipment and mini circuit options at Bob Horsfall Park, track and walking. So we'll update how long those stages could be once we've got the first stage up and running and how that looked and how that went. So we've got another meeting on the 22nd of May with Robbie, and of which we were to come with some equipment ideas. And obviously we can't put them on the stock bank, but there are certain areas that we're going to do a walkabout at Island Reserve Hupatia and around the public stock bank. Yeah. Anyone got any questions? Oh, thank you.
Questions, thank you. Just take that report. Accept that report. Thank you very much. And well, all of you, just pretty awesome work, to be honest. Thank you very much. And then board member updates. That is next, isn't it? Yep. Trina, anything you want to bring?
No, nothing from me.
Jo?
Nothing from me either.
Oh, it's cheap round this one.
Nothing from me.
Steve, come on.
It was pleasing to see a number of board members and councillors down at the planting of the 3 apple trees down at Windsor Park, and a big thank you to Councillor Christensen for digging the holes and getting the trees all organised, and we had a nice cup of tea afterwards. It was quite pleasant. So it was a great occasion, and just to recognise the coronation of King Charles III, so it's good.
Thank you. Yes, and yeah, thank you. Still want to find out how an apple tree doesn't need pruning. I wish I had 15,000 of those when I was a farmer back in Africa. Thank you, Steve. Also, just to add, thanks. I know staff worked hard as well, but the Anzac Day parades services went all very well. But thank you to everyone who contributed to that. And being there, so that was wonderful. Thank you very much. And then the resolutions register, how do we handle that? Right? Mark? Do you want to read through those? Ask any, it's been up. Anybody got any questions on the resolutions register? Which I'm not going to answer, but two learned people on my right will be able to help me out. Any questions? Oh, well, we can. Okay, sorry, so there's a resolution at the end that the community board member, that the community board confirm the removal of resolution 021. 021, because we've talked about it now and it's been decided, comes off the resolution register. Can I have, I'll move that. Can I have a seconder for that? Steve Hughes, thank you very much. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Abstentions? Thanks. We shall declare the meeting closed then at, oh, my computer shut down, 4:32. Is that correct? I mean, I know the clock's correct and I see it correctly as